Welcome to Ghostly. I'm Pat.
And I'm Rebecca. And we have a great episode for you today. We are going to let you hear our full interview with Holly at Paranormal Illumination Society.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this episode. Our interview with Holly was amazing. And we did this basically because we felt that it was important that we understand and you understand what kind of equipment is being used by paranormal investigators, because some of our stories might revolve around that in the future.
And we actually maybe used some of this in something recently that you may hear in the future.
Yes, you may. Holly did a great job describing the equipment that she uses and told us a couple of awesome stories, too.
And she has a great name for the episode coming out right at Christmas time.
Oh, Holly?
Holly.
Oh, yeah. But before we do our interview, I think we should go over the polls.
Okay, here we go. We got the polls. So we asked you which of our 3 Christmas ghost stories did you think was your favorite? And by a pretty big margin, Captain Santa and the Christmas Ship, which was Pat's story.
Oh, it was mine?
It was yours, won. Though I came in second, so I feel pretty good about that. Yeah. I think, you had the Chicago story, so I understand why
we have
that
a lot of
maybe
Chicago
came
listeners. Yeah, we have a lot of Chicago listeners right now, so, I mean, that makes sense. Okay. Those were the polls, and remember that we give you a voice after every episode here at Ghostly, and we'd like to hear your opinion, so make sure you go to ghostlypodcast.com. Yes, it's our website. Some people have said that they don't know that we have a website.
Yeah, so we do have one.
We've done a bad job letting people know. Ghostlypodcast.com is our website and our home, pretty much.
Absolutely. It's where you find everything, including the polls.
Yeah, and you can just go right into the poll section, or you can use the library and go to the actual episode where we're going to have pictures and all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay, we hope that you enjoy this interview as much as we enjoy doing it. Here's Holly. All right, so can you tell us your name?
My name is Holly Rohde. I am from the Paranormal Illumination Society, and we are a ghost investigating group from Salt Lake City, Utah.
Oh, great. Okay, can you give us a little history of how you got started in this?
Sure. So really what it comes down to is I grew up in a haunted house.
Ooh.
And yeah, and things happened, and I have quick side note, I have 7 siblings. Wow. So there was always something going on in the house, and be it the real live people that were there, or be it the other people that were there. There was always stuff going on. And about 10 years ago, my parents sold the house and moved. And it wasn't until then when we all started to talk about the things that happened in the house.
Oh, interesting.
We had all had experiences, but we just never talked about it.
Oh. So did you know that others had experiences?
I got a sense of it. My brother, Jeremy, and I are the co-founders of Paranormal Illumination Society, and I knew that he was interested in the paranormal. It wasn't too long after I actually started college. He was like, hey, I've heard about this ghost hunting thing. Do you want to do it with me? And at the time, I was like, sure, why not? And then we kind of brought things up about things that had happened in the house. But it really wasn't until after, for whatever reason, I still don't understand. It wasn't until after we moved that we all started to talk about it. And I think it was because my mom was the one to bring it up.
Oh, so she kind of almost like opened the floodgates a little bit.
She did. And then all of a sudden, all 8 of us kids were like, oh yeah, I remember this and this and this and this and this. And that's when we really got more serious about investigating. It was also about this time that the shows on TV started to pop up. ghost hunters, ghost adventures. Everybody had a ghost show.
Casper the Friendly Ghost.
I've watched those shows. They're good.
I do too. And sometimes I watch them and laugh. Sometimes I watch them and go,
Some of them are super silly, but
yeah. And then some of them I'm like, I don't think you should be doing that. I don't think you're going about this the right way. And so with the rise of the popularity of the TV shows, our investigating started to be a lot more, I don't want to say serious, but it was a lot more than just, hey, let's go out to the graveyard and take our recorders and see what we can find. Right. All of a sudden, we were starting to get requests on our Facebook page about, hey, can you come investigate my house? We started to get invited to different groups and different events where we would either lead some of the groups on investigations, or we would just participate in them. And then at that point, it was when we started bringing in other people into the group, and they're just like family. They may as well have grown up in the house with all of us. Wow. And so that's what got it started, was growing up in a haunted house.
Wow, that's just something that you guys never really talked about it, but you all had experiences?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now,
and I knew it was,
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I knew it was something a little bit more major when my dad decided to join in on the conversation.
Oh,
and
wow.
he is very much he was in the military, very much hard evidence facts.
Oh.
That's what he goes off of.
I don't know anyone like that.
Oh, no.
No.
Not at all. And so that's when we knew that it was like, oh, we're getting serious about this now.
Yeah.
Now, how many years ago was it that your mom sold the house and you had the
So that was in 2008. So we started in 2001 just doing our own investigations here and there. A couple of friends would be like, hey, why don't you come over to my house? And I'm sure there's something here. And so so it was 2001 when we officially started. And it was 2008 when the house was sold. Okay. And I couldn't believe that my brother and I just had never discussed the house, really.
Yeah, that's something.
To this day, I don't understand what it was.
Do you think that it gives it more power or something? You know what I mean? Like that idea of like, we don't talk about it because then I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm not exactly sure. I think a lot of it could be, I grew up in a religious household. And so things like that we just didn't talk about because only evil entities were the ones that would make contact and would do the thing, would, make the bumps in the night and would everything like that. And so once though we were old enough and we actually, once again started talking about it, it was okay. So I wasn't imagining it sounded like somebody running up and down the stairs in front of my bedroom all night long. Wow. It wasn't, I would be in the basement and I could hear somebody come into the house and walk around and I'd come upstairs, but nobody was there. Things like that. And so I think for me, it gave it just more validation that I didn't make it up and that I wasn't completely off my rocker. And I think that's when everybody else started to open up too. Because even at that point, it was when my parents and some of my siblings were like, so could we go on some investigations with you? Would that be okay? Wow. And I'm like, I was very surprised. I was like, sure. And so it's kind of it's a fun family. I mean, that sounds weird, but it's kind of a fun family thing. but at the same time, we take it seriously, and we
Absolutely.
have very strict guidelines for the people who come with us. First of all, when we go on, and maybe I'm jumping ahead of questions and whatever.
No, that's
ahead.
okay.
Yeah.
When we do an investigation and we go to our location, before we go inside, we have everybody sign a waiver just to cover any sort of liability. And a lot of the things are you drunk?
Okay, yeah.
Are you on any sort of barbiturate? Are you,
Sure. Are you
we
more
want to-
susceptible to, these spirits if it is? I mean,
Well,
exactly.
yeah.
Or just seeing things that aren't there, but it
Yeah.
could be because of the drugs, and I don't know.
And we don't know, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
and plus there's just a safety thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
if you can't see straight and you're walking around in the dark with just a little flashlight, who knows? So
Sure. So what kind of places do you investigate then? Or do they come to you? Do you reach out to them?
it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
We usually, when it's a home or a private residence or a private business, they have reached out to us.
Okay.
And they will ask, can you do this? Will you do this? And one of the biggest things that we emphasize is that if it is your home, if it is a place where you are going to spend a lot of time at, are you okay if we find something? Do you
Right.
want to know? Is it going to affect your ability to stay in your home? Because if that is going to be a make it or break it, we say no.
Yeah. Well, so have you ever went to a place that you just said, no, I don't think there's anything going on here?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
We've
okay.
been to several. One of the first thing that we try to do is we're all skeptical believers.
Oh, great.
So we take everything at face value
Sure.
off the bat. We try to debunk everything. Was it a leaky pipe? Do you need new shingles on your roof? Do
Wow.
you need some WD-40 on the door? Things like that.
do.
We will all. I think we all do.
Yeah.
And so we try to debunk everything first.
Sure.
Before we start to entertain the paranormal side.
Sure.
We've been to a few places where it was, you just need to, literally it was just, you need some WD-40, or you have like some of the insulation in your attic is very sketchy. So you should
Absolutely.
probably check it out. And then there's been places where from the moment we walked in till the moment we walked out, we were just barraged by a variety of things.
Okay.
I won't say if all of it is the supernatural, but there are definitely things that have happened that we can't explain with our equipment, with science, with just your mind, with reason.
Yeah. So
and that's
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you
oh
off.
no, you're good. Go ahead.
I'm bad
Go
with
ahead.
that.
Me too. Well, I was gonna say, do you do anything to protect yourselves?
Yes, absolutely. So I am a little bit more sensitive to things, to the different electronic wavelengths, I guess you could say it. I'm not saying I'm a psychic or anything like that, but I pick up on things a lot more. So the first thing we do when we go into a place is we just give a formal greeting of hi. We introduce ourselves. We're here tonight to talk with anybody who would like to. If you have something to say, please come forward. However, you are not allowed to like you cannot enter our bodies. You cannot do anything like that. You can use our energy, but you cannot attack. You cannot do any of that, because if you do, we're done.
Okay.
And then the same thing when we leave, we always say, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your space with us. Because these things, these ghosts were people at one time.
Sure.
They had lives, they had jobs, they had families. And if you go into their space, I mean, how would you feel if somebody barged into your space and was like, talk to me now?
Oh, it sounds like my work every single day.
Exactly. And it's not the greatest
it's
thing.
not pleasant. No.
And so we want to go in, with respect and everything. So we thank them as we're leaving, but then we also say, you are not allowed to come home with us.
Okay.
You are not allowed to follow us. You are not allowed to interfere with our lives or the lives of our loved ones. This is your space, and we will leave it as your space. We've had a couple incidences that have happened with some of our team members where they did not do that at the end, and they had visitors come home with them.
So what do they do then if something like that follows them home?
Usually what works is if you are in your home, your space, your area, and just like if a living being, flesh and blood, comes into your space, you can say, you are not allowed to be here.
Okay.
This is my space. You have to set boundaries. Just like with the alive folks, the dead folks also need boundaries and need to know what's okay and what's not okay.
Sure.
And sometimes people will be too hasty to do that, so they will, call a priest or whatever. And I have nothing against that at all. If you feel like there is something dangerous in your home and you want your clergy member to come in and help you, please, by all means, do it.
Have you ever witnessed that?
I have.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it was very interesting.
Yeah. I studied that. I went to a Catholic high school, and I was really into that concept of like an exorcist or something.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everyone's seen the movie. And if you haven't, by the way, go watch the movie.
Yeah, right?
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
No matter how terrible they get as they keep going, watch them.
Yeah, it tells a story. Yeah.
Exactly. And when you think of an exorcism, you think of, the Linda Blair head spinning, pea soup coming out, walking
Father,
down the stairs
I?
backwards. Yeah. Exactly. And it's not that exciting usually.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, what happened with the one that you witnessed of the clergy? It
was more of just the feeling of everything changed. So when the clergy came in and they started praying over the house, they brought some holy water, and they started doing their different rituals and whatever. You could feel the energy of the room and of the house changing. And I think that's one of the things that people don't understand is when it comes to ghost investigating or whatever, your most powerful piece of equipment is your own body.
Oh, that's interesting.
You can feel temperature change.
Okay.
You can feel, your hair standing up on your arms or the back of your neck. You can generally tell if something weird's going on or if it's, pretty neutral. And so you need to use that. And your body is so, if you think about it, the human body is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
It is resilient. It can rebuild.
Yeah, it heals quickly.
It heals very quickly.
Yeah.
And yet, with just the wrong turn, the wrong pinch, the wrong whatever, it can be over.
Sure. Yeah.
And so it's an amazing specimen.
That's a very good point.
And so and we're made up of, mostly water, carbon, everything like that. We have our own electronic wavelength that we put off. We put off energy. And just because, all the laws of physics and everything, something in motion will stay in motion. Mm-hmm. Your energy will keep going even after you've left.
Yeah.
So when people are like, oh my gosh, I don't get a good vibe from these people, or the room feels weird after people leave, it's because you have put off energy and it has been absorbed in the room.
Wow, that's interesting. I never thought of it that way. Yeah.
So basically with the clergyman, we walked around the house and you could tell a difference in the feeling. And when he was done and when he was like, all right, I feel pretty good about this, you could tell, you could feel it. You felt more at peace. Mm-hmm. You didn't feel, not to get all nerdy, but there was no disturbance in the force.
Now, would you say your goal is more finding information, or like my poltergeist is in my mind, like this house is clean, but is it more just like informative, or just giving them tools, or what would you say your goal is?
It depends on where we're at, of course. If we're in someone's home, my concern and my goal is to help give them tools to be able to deal with whatever is there, be it, putting those boundaries up for the spirits, giving them power back about saying, this is my home, you can't be here. We have even given out good plumber recommendations. We try to help everything along the way. So that's my goal, is I want them to be able to feel empowered of being in their home. Your home is your sacred place, or it should be at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so if we can help give you tools to cope, to make you and your family feel safer and feel more secure, oh my gosh, then I feel like it's all been worth it, no matter, what happens. So that is my goal.
Well, I guess I have to ask, do you charge for these investigations, or is this something that's more voluntary for you guys?
When we go to private homes, we do not charge.
Okay.
Because, and that's more because I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but I'm the one that said, if we're going to a home, we're not charging.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I feel like it's a service to others. That being said, though, when we have gone on some of the public investigations and we've helped lead them, we have been compensated. Not anything to, quit my day job for, but we have been compensated. And when we are compensated, that generally goes into updating our equipment, or buying more batteries. Because
I'm sure it gets expensive.
It does get a little expensive sometimes. So that's really what it goes into. But no, when we go to a private home, we do not charge for what we do.
Okay. Well, you mentioned equipment, so why don't we just get into that? What kind of equipment do you use?
So we use a variety. I'm also going to name some that we don't use but are definitely out there.
Okay,
and
good.
That are some of the more popular things.
Sure.
One of my favorites is the Spirit Box.
Ooh, okay.
And what it is it is an FM radio sweep machine, basically. Okay. So, when you're going through the dials on FM radio, for those people that still listen to regular radio.
Terrestrial radio.
Exactly.
I just listen to podcasts all the time, so just ghostly, actually, over and over again.
That's it. That's all I listen to.
Yeah, right.
And so, when you're switching from station to station, you have some of the interference. Mm-hmm. And here in Salt Lake, especially, we have the most radio stations per capita in the nation.
Oh, that's interesting.
So we've got a lot to choose from. Mm. And so what it does is that it will sweep back and forth on the FM dial very, very quickly.
Okay.
And generally what that is to do is to create white noise that spirits can use to communicate.
Okay.
They don't have, they don't have voice boxes because they don't breathe air, so they can't communicate the normal way that you and I do. And so they use energy, be it, electronic energy, be it your own energy. So with the spirit box, the radio sweeps back and forth very, very quickly, many times per minute. And generally, if something's there, they can use it to at least get out phrases or a word. I've heard whole sentences go down. So that's a fun one. I enjoy that one.
So does it sound like static then? Or does it sound like, or is it like a mix? Sometimes it sounds just like a person talking to you and sometimes, like just static.
That's exactly what it is. Sometimes you just hear the static.
Okay.
Just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And every once in a while you will hear a voice, like a full-on voice, sentence, or whatever.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's going over all of these radio stations back and forth so fast, there's no way a full sentence could be put together.
I see. Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's very distinguishable.
Yeah.
So the newer spirit boxes are quieter.
Oh, that's good.
The ones that my brother, he's quite a little inventor himself. He actually made a spirit box.
Oh, wow.
And he's pretty handy like that. And it was loud. Because, he just took the old radio from the garage and decided to modify it. So because as I said, because it's going so fast back and forth, there's no way you can get a full sentence or a full word out of one station at a time. And so when you do, it definitely makes your ears perk up a little bit.
Now that makes sense because we went on a tour of there's a little town over here called Galena, and we went on a ghost tour, and I think they had one of those boxes.
I don't know.
Or was that like an EPV or something?
EVP, I think that was
or something
more
like
of an
that.
EVP, I think. But I have seen the spirit boxes on TV.
But I could not hear a single word, and they're like, "See, didn't he just say T-shirt?" And I'm like, "No, he didn't. It went blah,
no."
blah.
I think the spirit boxes tend to be clearer, the voices. Is that true? Like it'd be easier to understand.
Oh,
them?
okay.
Yeah.
Yes, much easier. So there are other boxes that trying to find it on my list. It's called a Ghost Box Ovulus.
Okay.
And what it is, it's kind of along the same line, except it has a memory bank of just words.
Okay.
And so, you can ask questions and whatever. I think the best example I've ever seen in person was we were out at a place in about 30 minutes west of Salt Lake, and it's called Asylum 49. It's been on Ghost Adventures a few times.
Okay.
It's been on other shows have come and done investigations there. And through all of this, we've become very good friends with the owners of Asylum 49. And what it is, it's an old hospital.
Oh,
and
okay.
So during the Halloween season, they turn it into a haunted house.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's a great name for a haunted house, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then when that's over, they put everything back the way it was. So it still looks just like the hospital. And then you can come in and do investigations for the night.
Wow.
The greatest part is, so up until I think it was last summer, half of the old hospital was the Asylum 49, because the the hospital was originally built in 1849. It's been restructured and remodeled and everything since then. But the other half was a fully functioning nursing home.
Oh, wow.
And so
yeah.
And if you got close enough to the doors, you could hear the people on the other side. And if you weren't prepared for that, it'll scare the bejeebus out of you.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
But since then, they have now purchased the entire building.
Okay.
They built a new nursing home, and so no one is there. But also across the street, the other way from the hospital, is a cemetery.
Oh.
So it was literally like they had their own ghost factory going on.
Oh my God! Yeah, they shouldn't put a nursing home right across the street from a cemetery. That's really
no.
Yeah, it doesn't give you much hope, you know.
No, there is another nursing home actually just a couple blocks away from me, and literally 10 feet next door to it is a mortuary. I'm
like, my God.
Wow.
That doesn't make me want to put grandma in that nursing home.
No.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we were at this place, and I had one of the Ovilus boxes in my hand all night, and I had forgotten, in fact, that I had it because it had been quiet. And I walked into an area, and they had all these weird clowns all over, painted all over the walls. And it used to be the waiting room for the emergency room. Oh. And all of a sudden, that box started going crazy.
Oh, wow.
And it just started talking, and I kept looking over it because my brother happened to be in the room with me, and I'm like, we did the classic, did you hear that thing? And we were actually able to put a whole story together. It was whoever it was, we kept asking, did you come here? Were you hurt or whatever? And through this Ovilus box with all of the words that he put together, he was a farmer who had a farm accident and came to the hospital, and he died there because they weren't able to stop the bleeding.
Oh, man.
And then for about 2 minutes, it was going, and then nothing.
Wow.
The rest of the night.
Do you ever record these things?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay, great.
And I'll have to compile some of them and send them your way.
Oh, yeah. Love it.
So that's one of my favorites is the Ovilus as well.
Sure.
So we also use K2 EMF detectors.
Okay.
And what that is it's a meter that lights up when electromagnetic fields are detected. So, for example, if you're standing really close to a non-secured electrical box, it can put off electromagnetic waves like crazy. And science has come in and said that, if you are overexposed to electromagnetic waves, it can make you ill, it can make you dizzy, it can affect, you can, in extreme cases, hallucinate.
I have heard this.
Yes. And so we always take one of those with us. My brother's pretty cool. I'm going to have him come on one of these days with us.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
But he is also an architect, and he does home designs. And so he used to do home inspections and everything. And so he had the EMF detector, and there were actually homes that he went into to, give them the okay that the EMF readings were like off the chart.
Okay.
And he's like, it is not safe for you to be here.
Wow.
Sure.
You need to have some electric work done.
So this is kind of almost like a scientific check, a logical explanation potentially of what could be going on.
I think I saw him on Ghostbusters too.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's what he had with the. He'd hold it up and it'd have two like antennas on the top, kind of thing. And,
Oh, wow.
okay.
Basically,
see,
yeah.
Okay.
See, I've done my homework.
I'm laughing at you.
I watched all the Ghostbusters, including the one made with all women, just the other day, just to prepare for this.
See, there you go. You got always doing research.
Yeah.
Let's
Now you
see
need
what
one of
other
those
ones-
ghost
what
boxes
other-
that can pull the ghost inside the box.
I know.
Right?
The day I can figure out how to do that,
Yeah.
it'll be awesome.
I don't know.
So
It kind of
great.
leads to problems in Ghostbusters. Like they kind
I
of come out of
know.
there somehow. So
I know. That's the other thing is you got to figure out what to do with them once they
Right?
get in there.
yes.
Because they never really go over that. But
Yeah. I'm sorry. I get
Anyway.
kind of silly sometimes.
okay. Totally okay. My second language is sarcasm. So
Oh,
There
okay.
you
Great.
go.
So yeah. Let's see. We also, what else do we have? We have camcorders with night vision
Okay.
that are good to set up. Sometimes spirits can't be seen with the usual light spectrum that we see.
Okay.
But so if you have something with night vision, there's also cameras that have full spectrum.
Yeah, like
definition.
ultraviolet and everything.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Wow.
And sometimes that can be good. And then sometimes you see that kind of stuff, and it's like taking a black light into a hotel room.
Oh.
And you don't,
Yeah.
You're like, I've seen too much. I've seen too much.
Yeah, they didn't cover that on Ghostbusters. So.
No.
Yeah.
I love it.
No, they don't. So let's see, what else do we have?
Does that do heat signatures? I'm so sorry, really, with the camcorders.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
That would be the
Yes.
full spectrum one. though,
Okay.
Right?
Mhm.
Not the night
So it does
vision
heat
one.
signatures.
Okay.
It does the ultraviolet and then ultra. I can't remember all of the all the different
That
spectrums.
sounds
Yeah.
good. Okay.
Full
Um,
spectrum. That
yeah.
pretty much said it all.
We also have an infrared thermometer
Mhm.
so that we can check temperature changes in different areas of the room.
So is that
And
then
so
where you focus the investigation then when you find like a hot spot?
If we do that, that helps. That's
Okay.
for sure.
Okay.
So we'll do all, and then once again, also just to rule out any actual scientific, real world issues that might be going on.
Sure.
Like what could be happening? Just like a
Yeah,
cold
exactly.
air or something, or
Yeah, like you need to do the insulation around your windows a little bit better.
Gotcha.
There was one time we were doing an investigation, and all of a sudden I just got the biggest cold chill ever, and I'm like, oh my gosh, something's going on. And someone pulled out our thermometer, and they realized that the window behind me was cracked.
Oh wow.
And so I'm like, well, then never mind. We're good there. Another thing we do in some situations is, especially if the property is older, is we will bring trigger items.
Okay.
So trigger items are things that may be familiar to the spirits and maybe something that they can relate to.
Sure.
And so if they see it, they can go, oh, yeah, I know what that is. I have an old brooch that was given to me that is from the late 1800s. And so I will usually wear that when we're going somewhere.
Okay.
Um,
But you already
don't-
have to have like an idea of who might be haunting there in order to do something like that, I'm imagining.
it helps.
Or a
but-
time period at least, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we try to do that. If we know that we're going into a space where children might be, we will bring in toys. We'll bring in like a teddy bear or a ball or a little matchbox car.
Aw.
See, just kind of tokens of we're not bad people. We just
Right.
want to
Yeah.
understand you.
Sure.
Then there's also some stuff that we don't have, but we would like to have.
Aha.
So there are laser grids. A lot of people know them now as those cool lights you can set up in your front yard at Christmas or Halloween. And it
okay.
has, it does the different displays and whatever, the different laser light things. You can set that up, and the theory is that if you see someone walk through, if there's any sort of disturbance with the light, you can see it.
Okay.
Wow. That's really cool.
I will lie, I have not seen it work in anything I've been in, but that, different things, different times.
Sure,
so
absolutely.
I would still very much give it a go. Let's see, what else? Oh, I think one of the biggest questions we get asked is, what kind of recorders do you use? Like, what kind of voice recording stuff do you use? So back in the day, when we first started, we had cassette tape recorders, just the kind that you buy. Then you would set them on your desk to listen to a lecture or whatever in school.
Sure.
So, it was analog. And were things as crisp and everything as they are now? No, but it worked.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now, honestly, I will use just a regular voice recorder. I think I got mine at like Walmart for $30. And then I will record stuff on my phone.
Okay, yeah. I could see that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I usually try to have 2 different devices with me because I have found that there are times when one recorder will pick up something that the other doesn't.
Wow.
And they are within literally inches of each other. I think one of the best examples was we went to a place downtown Salt Lake City called the Depot. And now it's a club and a concert venue, but it is connected to the old train station that used to run through downtown Salt Lake. And down in the basement where the green room is for the bands and whatever, I was with someone that just came on the investigation with us. And creepy room, creepy vibes. I wanted nothing. As soon as I walked in, I'm like, nope, I don't like this. But we stayed for a few minutes. He caught stuff that I didn't.
Okay.
Interesting.
Maybe it's a frequency thing. Maybe,
which very well could be it too. But I think it also gives credit to, okay, something did happen. Something definitely was there with us. And so, I mean, that's a very common thing. We have regular, just digital cameras to take pictures with on top of the camcorders and everything. Once again, you can catch things when you take a picture that you won't necessarily see.
Okay.
That could be, shadows, what a lot of people refer to as orbs, the white light balls, just, a variety. I've seen photos, where there's like a haze in front of a person, like a white.
Oh, yeah.
Or like a halo or something too.
Yeah. And sometimes like a smoke cloud.
Oh, wow.
That clearly wasn't there that you could see with your physical eyes. And so, so usually afterwards, after we're done, we've done our investigation, we go home. And the part that they don't show on a lot of these ghost shows is the hours and hours of videotape and audio that you go through.
Oh, yeah.
To find anything.
Sounds like my editing process.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And you're listening, you're sitting there with your headphones on, listening very intently.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think for one of our investigations, it's when I had my cell phone, my recorder, and then a camera and then a camcorder. Like all together, we were talking about almost 24 hours of footage and audio to go through. And it can get very boring very quickly.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
A lot of people don't.
See, my process is taking out all the swear words that Rebecca says in between things. Yeah, because she swears so much. It's just ridiculous.
Well, sometimes the girls just got to let it go. Exactly. Sometimes
now I got to edit out that.
You got to edit that out.
Thanks a lot.
So yeah.
Would you say there's times where you do an investigation and while you're there, you see, hear nothing, But you go home and you have to go through all of that tape and all that audio and everything, and that's when you find it. Is that usually what happens, or is that like half and half? I don't know.
I would say that's more normal.
Okay.
Every once in a while, you'll have a night where it's crazy. Like you can't believe that you're getting all of this. And those are also the nights that it seems like, you're like, oh my gosh, I got all this stuff and it's going to be great. And it wasn't on anything. It wasn't recorded. It wasn't caught on audio. And you're just like, ugh, why? Why? Which is also why I say it's very important to use your own body as a tool.
Yeah.
I will definitely say that I have had more personal experiences than I've had documented experiences.
Okay.
I had a couple more questions. What would you say was your most interesting case?
Or
just one that kind of sticks in your mind.
I would say my all-time favorite was at an army base here in Salt Lake. It's called Fort Douglas. It is now on what is considered part of the University of Utah campus.
Okay.
And it was established just after the Civil War.
Okay.
And it was very active and very much in use until after World War II or Korea. So it was, it had a good long life. And a lot of people that would think about, good old Utah being involved with any of that. But we actually held prisoners of war during World War I.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's one of those that you go, oh, that's swell.
Yeah.
That's great. And then of course down in south from here was the Topaz Mountain internment camp.
That's what I was thinking about. Yeah.
Which is another one of those. That's awesome. Way to go, Utah.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Anyway, so this old, a lot of the same buildings are still standing up there.
Okay.
And so a lot of them are being used for housing, as student housing. They have an old theater there that is actually used for film classes. And then you can go up there and you can rent out the small chapel and the officers club for weddings, bat mitzvahs, whatever.
Okay.
Wow.
And so we were up there and we were in the chapel, and it's literally one of those built out of stone, adorable chapels. And as soon as you walked in, you could tell something was there. And I was leading a group, and a lot of these, it was open to the public, and a lot of the people in the group were actually firefighters and police officers.
Interesting.
And their significant others. And, they were big, tough, burly men. And so we got in there, and just from the get-go, temperature changes. I kept walking over to one spot, and another guy that was helping with the tours came over and said, "This is the same spot that people have been getting reactions all night."
Okay.
And I was like, okay. And everybody left with a personal experience. And there was one of these guys, one of these big burly firefighters, who just broke down in tears. And he's like, I have never felt anything before. People were being touched gently and lovingly. Okay. The story is there's a woman in black or woman in gray that roams around up there that was a teacher during the late 1800s. And who, of course, passed away for some horrible reason, like good ghost stories do.
Of course.
And everyone, she went and would put her hand on people's arms. One lady, she felt like a hand lovingly put on her face. they were feeling like it would be warm and then cold and then warm all of a sudden again. One of the tests or one of the things that we do during investigations is, and I'm sure you've seen it before, is the flashlight test, where you get like a mag flashlight and you unscrew it to where it's just barely in between on and off. And the idea is if you ask a question and say, turn the light on for yes, leave it alone for no, or, 2 for yes, 1 for no type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we were getting like instant questions answered, back and forth. And it was just so cool. It was because all of a sudden I'm like, okay, it was almost like, because I do have those kind of personal experiences quite a bit. It was like I was finally able to show people what ghost investigating is like for me on like an emotional and physical level. They were experiencing the same things.
Wow, that's awesome.
It was so cool. And that was like on a Saturday night. We came back Monday night to do another round, and I had some of the same people come back, and they're like, we want to do that again. That was awesome. We went back and there was nothing.
Oh, so it could just be the time was right for that.
Exactly. I mean, it was a full moon that night, so I don't know, I guess we could give some credit to that. But
right.
so that was my favorite, is because other people finally got to experience what I feel and experience during investigations.
Everything just worked right. The cards were aligned, or the stars were aligned.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Venus was not in retrograde. It was great. So that was my favorite. That one was my absolute all-time favorite.
So I have a question too. Okay. So we're about to go to this place called Bachelor's Grove, which is a cemetery over here that's really old. And I've heard pretty much everybody I've talked to, said that they've had some kind of experience there. Is there anything in particular that you think we should look for when we go to something like this? Or listening to some of our stories, have you heard anything where you're just like, man, I wish they would have done this?
I think one of the biggest things I would say is I would kind of look around and see, okay, is there any sort of disturbances? Like, is there any light pollution that could affect things?
Okay.
Is there sound pollution? I mean, the number one reason why ghost hunting happens at night is because it's quiet.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That's really what it is. It's because there's not much going on. It's generally very quiet. And so you can sit there in the darkness and not have a lot of light and sound coming in and disturbing everything.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just because we're the creepy kids that, had all black clothing in high school or anything, but there's an actual scientific reason for it. So I would just kind of check for that. I would see how big the group is, because sometimes a big group is just too much.
Yeah.
There's too many people talking, whether they mean to or not. Things like
fear
that.
spreads too. So if somebody's afraid, it's going to make other people afraid. And it could be for nothing.
100%.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's that kind of crowd mentality of one person's like, this is happening. A lot of people will get caught up in it. And I would say the biggest thing I would pay attention to is your own body.
Okay.
If it's below freezing outside and you're out there, you're gonna get cold.
Yeah, I'm thinking it might be because it's really cold like right now. So this is a week from now. So yeah.
Oh yeah. So it's just gonna be as cold, if not a little colder.
Yeah.
So yeah, pay attention to that. I've experienced when it's cold that all of a sudden you get, for lack of better words, hot flashes.
Oh.
when there is no reason why you should be.
Yeah.
I would say the biggest thing is pay attention to that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Pay attention to how you feel. Definitely keep an open mind.
Yeah. I'm trying. I'm trying really hard.
Oh, yeah. And, the biggest thing about at least our group is we're not trying to convince people one way or the other.
Yeah.
It's all subjective. If you try hard enough, anything can be explained away. And if you try hard enough, anything could be paranormal.
Wow, that's something to think about there.
Exactly. So pay attention to how you're feeling. Pay attention to your immediate surroundings. And have fun.
Yeah.
Anything else.
Well, yeah,
totally,
I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Good time.
Yeah. It's one of those places that, I mean, if it's just everyone around the area has heard of it, has a creepy story about it. And
even skeptics, they go in there and they say, we didn't see anything, but man, that place is spooky.
Oh, yeah. And that's okay. And you're not always going to catch something every time. It's not always going to be. Sometimes it is just, I felt creeped out in there.
Yeah. I feel creeped out doing any of this research. I mean, geez, they're not the best stories. Let me tell you, they usually have a really bad ending.
Unfortunately, it's very true. But most of the best ghost stories usually have that gritty ending to them.
True,
so very
true.
Only every once in a while do you hear, and they passed away calmly and peacefully in their bed at home, surrounded by family.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
All right, I think you had one more question, right?
Oh, well, and you don't have to answer this one. I just was wondering, have you talked to the people that live in your old house now?
No, I've been wanting to, but for whatever reason, it just hasn't happened. I don't live very far away from where I grew up. But I will say that, my family moved in 1986. The house was built in 1984.
Okay.
And we were already the third people to be living in the house.
Wow.
And we were there, my family was there for 22 years.
Okay.
And in the 10 years since my parents moved, they've gone through another 3 owners.
Wow.
So I don't know if we were just crazy enough to stick with it that long or what.
Wow. Okay.
But no, I keep thinking about it because we still have friends, of course, in the neighborhood. And actually it was great story. So one of our good friends was taking her husband around our old stomping grounds, and she grew up across the street from us. So she was, they went driving down our street, our old street, and she's like, yeah, this is where Jeremy and Holly lived, and this is where I lived. And she turned and looked in the front window at just the right moment. And she said that she saw this little girl, pale, no expression, nothing, just staring at her.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And when she turned back around, she was gone.
They always disappear. I don't know what it is.
It's just like, that's whatever was in that moment. So she called us freaking out. She's like, what is this? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's the little girl that used to run up and down the stairs. Like, that's not a big deal. And she's like, what?
Yeah, that's a class 4 poltergeist, obviously.
Well, and I honestly believe that it was more poltergeist activity that happened in the home. I have 5 sisters.
Oh.
And
That's a big
There's a long
family.
stretch of time there where there's a lot of extra crazy energy.
Exactly. And the more and more as time goes on, I'm like, it had to have been something like that because there were days. And yet when most of us were gone, it was perfectly calm and normal. So, I mean, I don't know. I
that seems to
won't
be
say yay or nay, but
that particular idea, I find even people that aren't necessarily believers will tend to give some credence to that concept of puberty and the energy and the just how that happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's BO related body odor.
Oh my gosh. You're not telling lies there. I mean, I don't know anybody who got through puberty without some scars. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
And so why wouldn't you? I mean, you have the angst already because your hormones are all over the place.
But it's just like extra energy that's just out there and crazy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when I had 4 of my older sisters going through all of it at the same time, almost, it was bad.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a lot.
Well, Holly, I think that's about all that we have.
Okay.
But I really appreciate your time. And I look forward to having you back on someday, too.
Yeah,
absolutely. And we'd love to meet your brother.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
absolutely.
What was
We
your
will
brother's
have to
name
do this
again?
Together.
Jeremy?
His name's Jeremy.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Well, definitely tell him that we said hi. And,
I will. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that was Holly's interview. Wow.
I loved it. It was so much fun to do. And some parts of that interview still give me the chills, especially when she's talking about her house as a kid.
Oh, yeah. It kind of reminded me of Haunting of Hill House, you know? How they all had different experiences, but didn't really talk about it with each other.
How crazy is that?
That is crazy.
Yeah. Lots of good stories. And I love hearing about all that equipment. And I can't wait to hear more and learn more and use it myself someday.
Yeah. You know, we actually have a lot of exciting things about to happen with Ghostly. I don't want to give anything away because I actually have a date that I'm going to announce stuff. But there's some really fun stuff. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button because you don't want to miss out.
Absolutely. And make sure you go to the polls page at ghostlypodcast.com and let us know what you think of this episode and Holly's interview.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what the poll is going to be about, and I hardly ever do when we record the episode, but we're definitely going to have a poll.
Definitely, because we want you involved in this podcast. It makes it much more interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, there are things I don't really want to talk about yet, but what I will talk about is our next episode, and it is going to be, oh my God, it's going to be scary.
The name of this episode alone freaked me out.
Yeah, it's going to be about shadow people. And yeah, I don't want to give anything away. You have to listen to the episode, but it's actually something that gives me the chills. And since the holiday season will be over, it's back to the debates then, Rebecca. Are you ready?
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
No more Mr. Christmas nice guy. It's going to be on. And
the next episode will be coming out on January 9th.
All right. Oh, hey, can I mention one thing before we wrap it up? So one of the really good friends of Ghostly Podcast, Halloween Jean, has a new edition of her magazine, which is Haunted Emporium Magazine. She does a great job covering a lot of haunted stuff around Chicago, but also she does music.
Yeah.
She has a whole section on Riot Fest. She had like a special pass and a Riot Fest and all the bands there and everything.
It sounds awesome.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So anyways, if you want to go to her Facebook page, Halloween Jeans Haunted Emporium, and Halloween Jeans Haunted Emporium, you can check it out.
Yeah, and this is her winter episode, right? Or her winter edition. I'm sorry, I'm so podcast. I say episode.
Yes.
Yeah, and Ghostly might be mentioned in there a little bit. Maybe like an image or something. Okay, so if you like what you hear at Ghostly, please rate and review us on Facebook or iTunes. We can use reviews on both. So you Android people that don't get iTunes, go on over to the Facebook page and rate us.
Definitely.
If you don't like what you hear, please send us an email and let us know what we can do better, because this is a podcast for the people. I mean, we ask for your voice, so we really care what you think.
Absolutely.
And we want to make this the best podcast we can possibly make it.
Yep. And we want your input. We want your ideas, your stories, your feedback, all of it.
Yeah, especially if you're a skeptic. then we really, really want to hear from you.
Tell me your ghost stories. That's what I want.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again on January 9th.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.